As a motoring journalist, it's really fun to go on press launches. They're generally to warm, comfortable places with lovely hotels and brilliantly designed and picturesque routes that you can take your cars along. But what's a car like to live with on a day-to-day basis, especially in damp, dreary, stormy Britain? My name is Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield.
And I'm Mark Chatterley, and this is Charged Up, which is our series where we do a nice review of a car that we've been driving for about a week, the past week.
Yeah, you'll have seen Quick Charge, which is our first impressions of a car. This is Charged Up, which is 1 week later when we tell you what we really think. And this week, what are we driving, Mark?
We've been driving the Renault ZOE.
It's wet, let's get in.
In terms of price, it's just shy under £14,000 after the government grant.
Yeah.
Obviously, this car comes with battery rental. Unlike the Leaf, where you buy the car and the battery, this you buy the car.
Well, hang on, because Nissan now does rental as well. But
yes.
But this car kind of started the whole battery rental, or
Yes.
Renault started the whole battery rental kerfuffle, because because Renault went, well, you're not going to buy this car outright. We're going to give you you buy the car outright, but then we're going to rent you the batteries rather than buy the batteries. What does that set you back at?
£70 a month,
Right.
3-year contract.
Yep.
And that is for 7,500 miles a year.
Ooh,
So
that's quite low.
Yeah, any mileage you go over that costs you pence per mile. I don't know how much exactly.
Can you get a higher?
You can get higher rates, but that's their flagship rate. I guess that's the rate that you see when you go onto the website when you're looking at the price of the car.
And it drives. I mean, I'm just coming up these hills now.
It's a good hill.
It's got a 50 kilowatt motor.
Which peaks at about 65
Right.
kilowatts.
I mean, Renault says it's a separate motor to the one found in the Nissan Leaf, but it feels very similar in terms of its delivery and its operation and its noise.
Yeah, the
same sort of whine.
Whine is there as you accelerate.
Now it also uses the same 23, I think. They're quoting it's 23 kilowatt hour battery pack. Again, forced air cooling, no liquid cooling. It's essentially the same battery pack you'd find in the Nissan Leaf. It's a horrible day today.
Yeah.
It's raining. There's a storm on the way. First storm of the autumn. Although it's not autumn yet.
No, not quite.
It's not
officially.
quite autumn officially yet. But it's cold outside. It's 8 degrees C, which is probably warm for you. But I mean, feel my hands. I am cold.
You are cold.
I am cold, and I've got the heater on, and it doesn't really affect the range.
No, and that's...
Well, why is that? Because in the Leaf, I put my heater on and it just
sucks up all the power. So the Leaf has got a very old-fashioned heating system.
Or at least our Leaf, the first generation
Leaf. It's based on the same idea of an internal combustion engine where it uses the waste heat from the engine to heat some water and then uses that to blow warm air, which is lovely. But in an EV, that power to heat the water has to come from the battery pack, which is not a very efficient way of using power.
So it's got a resistive heater.
Yes.
That heats up the water, and that then
heats you up.
Heats the cabin up because it heats the air through a normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's different in Zoe?
This has got a heat exchange system in it, so it uses some clever piece of trickery which I don't actually understand.
It's like an air compressor. It's like an air conditioner in reverse. It uses a gas that has a very low boiling point.
Okay.
That transfers heat from outside. It basically absorbs heat energy from outside.
So even on a cold day, it brings heat in. And the stat that I keep seeing is that for every 3 kilowatts of heat you want in the cabin, it's using 1 kilowatt of power from the battery. So it's a very efficient, sort of 3 times more efficient than the Leaf would be in generating heat.
Definitely. But I mean, the long and the short of this is it's nice and warm and toasty in this car today. I don't feel cold. Do you feel cold?
No, I feel too hot, in fact.
Let's turn it down a bit then.
But this is the key. It's a kind of flat, I suppose it's credit card size, but thicker.
It's a TV remote, Mark. I mean, when they
kind.
when they dropped it off, I nearly had a fit.
And there's a slot that it goes into, but as you can see, it doesn't need to be in the slot. We're driving along. It's got a lock and unlock button, a heater button, which I guess will preheat the car for you.
Preheat the car, yeah, that's just like some of the other cars.
And then a charge port button, which opens the charge port for you on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awkward. That's all I can say about it.
Very awkward.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought that's really cool. I quite like it. And then I thought it's like another mobile phone in your pocket.
Now, you've driven it a little bit. I've driven it a little bit. It feels nice and centered in the road.
Yes, it does. Nice and solid, I guess, would be my way of describing it.
I found that the traction control's been an issue in wet weather.
In wet weather, not in general, though.
Not in general, but I mean, that seems to be a Renault thing. I've had trouble with Renaults in the past that felt a little bit easy to lose grip. And that's things like pulling out of junctions when there's wet and there's water on the road. So
that's got to speak against it a little bit. Because, I mean, that's when you want the traction control.
Yeah. Generally, though, it's been pretty sure-footed. Now, this car's just pulling, and the steering's not too busy to go around these tight... This is like your quasi-mountain. This is as close we get to a mountain road in this part of the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm doing the limit now. We're coming up to 40. So I'm going to just punch it up.
And it's definitely not struggling to
It's
gain
pulling
speed.
back up. We're now hitting 40, which is about as fast as I'd want to go on this road, to be honest. Now, like the Leaf, there's this kick-down function, which simulates you dropping a gear in a conventional manual gearboxed car. And that is really quite easy to get round. I don't know. That was a proper hairpin. Yeah. There's another one here. So I'll see how many locks it takes me to get around this. Okay, so that's halfway around.
So not even full.
Not even a full lock.
And a guy on a motorcycle, on a bicycle going.
A bicycle. Now he's doing about 2 miles an hour. Accelerating past him. No loss of traction. A little bit of a wiggle there. It took a bit too much power through.
Yeah.
And it's a very relaxing drive as well.
Yeah.
The car is very relaxing. I would admit I don't like the seats. You do.
I do like the seats. Yeah. I maybe not the style of them. They're a bit boy racery looking for me, but I quite like the feel of them. I feel like they're hugging my bum, I think was the phrase I used in the quick charge, and I'm going to stand by that.
See, I just don't feel it. I'm a little bit bigger than you. Maybe. I don't know. My bum's bigger. There you go.
I didn't say that.
But I do feel there's very little lateral support.
Okay.
And it feels like you're sitting on the seat rather than in the seat. And when I'm driving a car, I do like to feel that I'm in a seat.
It's like a kind of comfy sofa. You like?
Yeah, I mean, not to the point that you fall asleep because you're not paying attention, but to the point that when you go around a corner, you don't feel that you're gonna bump into the next person. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I feel quite proper, quite propped up. Quite proper. Do you have a proper strong back?
In terms of passenger, this is nice and comfy. Although my daughter came up with a really interesting thing this week, observation. Okay. She said, "Mummy, I don't like this car." I said, "Why is that?" She said, "Because I can't see through the front." Because this is all one piece.
Yeah.
The headrest, the head restraint is all one piece. Glovebox. Pointless Glovebox. Look at this. It's tiny.
It's
which is the same as the Clio, by the way.
Almost as if anything you put in it, the moment you opened it next time, it would just fall out in your lap. But then it's worth mentioning that the boot, on the other hand, is huge.
It is massive, and we've got some photos of that. I went to Costco this week, and I did a shop at Costco, and we got pretty much everything in there.
Wow.
Apart from those big multiple bags of kitchen rolls or toilet rolls that you get.
Yeah.
We had to put one of those in the back seat. But, I've had 3 kids in here and it's just been fine, and 2 adults.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be a great family car. So Mark, I bought you a coffee.
Thank you. Did it have my name on it?
Did have your name on it. Look, 2 coffee cups. By the way, other coffee cups are available. This is my coffee cup test. I was driving this car in Portugal with Robert Llewellyn, and he mocked me because I moaned about my cups. Now I don't normally have paper cups. I have a Cogito Contigo cup, which is great. It's slightly bigger bottom, and I found that it didn't actually quite fit in the cup holders.
Okay.
Now this is a Starbucks tall. There are 3 cup holders. It fits in the first one. It doesn't really fit in the second one, and it fits in the third one. This is the Grande, which just about fits in the first one. Doesn't fit in the second one. It fits in the third one. Now I have a venti down there as well by your right hand, Mark.
You do. I will grab this for you.
Before going around the corner. This is a venti, and actually when the handbrake is up, it gets in the way. And it wobbles. I mean, it wobbles sort of like that in the cup holder. And I actually did spill a drink earlier this week because cup holders weren't very big. There is something that you've had a bit of a gripe with this week, and I've had a bit of a gripe with, and that is the eco mode.
Yes, so maybe not the best place, but the eco mode, as you're driving, it seems like they've gone for different zones on the accelerator. So the first, maybe just over a third of the accelerator is very good at kind of creeping around town speeds, pulling away slowly. And then suddenly you just hit a point where that stops, and suddenly you're given from maybe 25%, 30% of the power of the motor, it suddenly jumps up to 50, 60%.
Well, that's because of the kickdown, isn't it?
Yeah, and
you don't like that.
I don't like that.
But then the Leaf does that too.
But the Leaf's, it's right at the end of the accelerator on the Leaf.
Right, okay.
Whereas for this, it's too far up.
So it's the accelerator mapping that you don't like.
Yeah, so I feel like, and the first time I drove this around the town, it kept hitting me too quickly, and so I would be wanting to pull away gently, and then suddenly I'd leap away, and it frightened me a little bit, I guess, would be a fair way of saying it.
But the eco mode itself operates very differently. Eco mode operates very differently in this car from the Leaf, because in the Leaf, in eco mode, you can still go at 70, 80 miles an hour if you want.
Yes.
It just takes longer to get there.
Yes.
And it cuts power to the heater. Now, eco in this car does something very different.
It does. It limits the motor and the top speed.
Yeah, so it limits the car to 60 miles an hour, which I discovered on the motorway the other day.
Which is not a place you want to be discovering that, really.
I was like, well, why is this car not going faster than 60 miles an hour? If you push it all the way to the floor, though, it will go to 70. But as soon as you lift back off that throttle, it just starts to drop down to 60 again.
Wow.
So eco is only really... We've got it in eco mode now.
Yeah.
And it does maximise the range.
Yeah.
But I don't like it for round... I don't like its operation. I don't like the fact that it limits speed. Let's talk about charging, because we're coming up to a charging station at the moment, and this is why we're heading up here. Now, the Zoe has this thing in it called a chameleon charger, which charges at 3 kilowatts.
Pretty much anything above 3 kilowatts.
Up to 43 kilowatts. And it does single phase and 3 phase.
It does, yeah.
Because in Europe we've got these Type 2 Menenquez sockets, or Menenquez sockets. And we've also got the AC quick charge stations. Now we're heading up to Forest Green Rovers Football Club.
We are.
Which is an Ecotricity site, which is why we have our Ecotricity card here. And we're going to charge this car up. Now, I charged it this morning on a fast charger on the motorway, which is 43 kilowatts. And it took about 10, 15 minutes to put on a 20 miles, 30 miles of range. Now we're going to use the 22 kilowatt charging units because here they don't have any others, do they?
No, they got the ChargedUp.
And that's it.
And that's it here.
So we're going to charge up here for a few minutes, and we're going to talk about charging.
Yep.
There is some news on the charging front, isn't there?
There's some very exciting news. So there was always a running issue with this car that you couldn't charge it lower than 16 amps single phase, 3.3 kilowatts.
Because it's just not efficient.
It's not efficient.
You could. It just took you
a long time.
A long time.
So there is news that you will be able to buy a optional extra, which is another charger in the car.
In the car from 2014.
I believe so, yeah.
And it's just been announced this week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So by the time you see this video, you'll already know about it.
It's old news.
But
We wanted to say, so at that point, charging at 10 amp, which is kind of what domestic leads charge at, would be a lot easier.
And I reckon it would be about 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I hope they're shooting for. There is a problem with Zoe, and you've commented about it.
The noise.
It uses the power electronics, the motor, the inverter in the motor to charge the battery.
It does.
Which has two things. First of all, it means that the charger is not what we call galvanically isolated.
Very, very nice technical term.
Which, if there is a problem essentially with the charging station,
yeah.
God forbid, but if there's a problem with the charging station and there's a surge of power that goes into the car, instead of just pooching the charger,
yeah,
you could damage the motor, etc., etc.
So there's a higher potential for damage.
But let's be clear at this point. There are so many safety devices between here and here.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be hit by lightning than you are for that to happen. The second thing though is the noise.
The noise.
I don't know if I can get my microphone close up to this, but here we go.
It's very high pitched. It's quite shrill.
I don't know if that worked.
And
it's probably just a lot of microphone noise, but I can hear it.
And it's constant. And what was quite interesting is when you had this plugged in at your house, I could still hear it through two closed doors.
Yeah. The other thing, talking about styling, you keep saying that the bonnet looks like it's up.
Yes. It looks like
it's
popped to me.
There's a lip here that runs down the lights. There's a very aggressive front end to this car.
It is.
Very aggressive front end. I think it's quite nice. It looks a bit like the Clio. It's just slightly taller and slightly longer.
Yes.
But essentially it's the same car. You've got some issues with the interior, haven't you? The fit, finish and trim.
I do. I feel like they haven't chosen a market. So there are certain bits of it that feel very boy racery and very top end. So you've got the seats look boy racery. You've got the top end gadgety with the R-Link system and the dash, which is a TFT display, which looks absolutely lovely. And then that's contrasted by the very cheap looking feeling plastic down the centre.
Yeah, it's very hollow. It has a very hollow feel. And I find that this car does send a few mixed messages about the interior. So, Mark, interior, not so great.
Not so great. It has its highlights, the high-tech stuff I like, but there's, mixed markets, I think.
This is a yummy mummy car without any doubt. It's the car that you can, drive to work, drop the kids off at school, drive to work, plug in for an hour or two, and know that if the school rings you up,
you're fine.
Johnny's fallen down a well, come help. You can be Lassie and jump in the car and
go and rescue them.
A
lot of that is down to the one cable. It's simple.
It's very simple.
It's the first car really that someone who doesn't care about charging cables, charging infrastructure, different types of cables can just drive. It's one cable they use.
And in 95% of the locations, that cable will unquestionably work.
Yes.
They just have to learn how to use these, but everything else will just work.
Yeah.
Just plugs in the front, very easy, frontward parking.
Yeah.
Plug in, no reversing or weird things to do.
Make sure it's charging, walk away.
Would you buy one?
I have issues with the battery rental model, and I've been quite open that I'm not 100% convinced by battery rental. If this Zoe was out at the same time as the Leaf and I had the option to buy it whole, it would have been a very difficult decision for me between the Leaf and this car. As it is now, I'm lusting after the Chameleon Charger.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be indebted to Renault to paying them a certain amount every month
for the battery rental.
For a certain number of miles that I can't necessarily control.
Okay, so rating?
I think 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
The Chameleon Charger wins over a lot.
I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 because of what's under here.
Okay.
Because of the Chameleon Charger. If it didn't have the Chameleon Charger and it was just 3 kilowatt charging like the Fluence and the Kangoo, I'd actually rate the Kangoo higher than this.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Because the Kangoo is more versatile, bigger.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But because of the Chameleon Charger, this gets a very good mark.
So, unless you've got something you carry your keys in, like a bag, I think this is really awkward.
Show them the Nikki key ring.
The Nikki key ring. This is how Nikki carries her keys. And so this attaches to that, and for Nikki, apparently that works.
All right, let's turn around here. just going to want to.